If you spend any amount of time doing food photography, sooner or later you'll have to take pictures of brown foods. The trouble is that anything that's all brown can easily end up looking really dull and unattractive. So in today's video, I'm sharing 6 of my favorite tricks for transforming brown food photos from dreary looking to delicious moreish images. Hey guys, I'm Lauren, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the dreaded brown foods. Let's be honest, no one really wants to shoot brown foods. It's enough to fill most food photographers with a sense of dread, as we all know the challenges of shooting brown food. And even food that tastes amazing when eaten and looks great when it's served can appear completely unappetizing once photographed. A brown dish can test the skills of even the most experienced food photographer, so if this is something you've struggled with, you are definitely not alone. But brown food also has its positive side. For example, brown and beige are often associated with healthy eating. Think whole grains, raw palm sugar, and other unprocessed foods. And you'll probably have noticed also that eco-conscious brands tend to go for a subdued palette of pale biscuit, light browns and yellows. Again, because these tones suggest a more naturally harmonious and unadulterated product. Of course, there's a big difference between shades of toasted wheat and caramel, and the earthier hues that many baked goods and certain curries, soups and stews can bring. So let's take a look at some ways to add interest and appeal to these challenging dishes. To help get you started, I've made you a free PDF with 10 of my top food styling tips, which is so important for brown food. So head to the link right here and let's jump in to tip number 1. So my first tip when shooting simple brown foods such as cookies, cakes and breads is to concentrate on their texture. You can even try getting more interesting texture baked into the dish itself right from the start. But beyond this, emphasizing texture is all about the clever use of lighting. For this shot of cookies, I played around with the angle and the hardness of light, positioning it slightly lower than I normally would, so as to pull out as much of that texture as possible. This helped to break up the otherwise monochrome cookies and give them a nice, crunchy, crumbly look. And on this close-up image, I used my macro lens to capture the cracks and the sugar crystals in all of their detail. This helped take these somewhat bland cookies to the next level, making this brown food photo a lot more interesting. So tip number 2, another really good way of adding interest to brown foods is to create depth by layering. So when you're faced with a monochrome subject like a pumpkin pie, layering can really help to add a feeling of increased depth with different elements sitting on different planes within the shot. For example, let's take a look at this pie straight out of the oven. Sure, it's delicious, it's gooey, it's got the perfect crust, but it looks a bit boring and flat. So to spice it up a bit, firstly, I chose a backdrop in a similar warm tone to help create an analogous color palette through the image, which gives a softness to the frame, creating a warm, cozy vibe, which is definitely what you want with a pumpkin pie. The plates are slightly off beige color, and as well as complementing this warm palette, they form our first layer. Next, I cut the pie into slices to create interest, and these slices also allow me to position them and to point them through the frame to create leading lines. The next layer is a dollop of whipped cream, which would naturally be served with the pie anyway, but it adds a new color and tone that breaks up the monotonous brown surface of the pie. Lastly, I sprinkled some extra cinnamon on top of the cream and the pie, which emphasizes the flavors found in the pie and gives us our last layer on the food. A few spoons and a little bowl of cinnamon and this scene is complete. So if we compare this final photo to the initial plain pie, you can see the difference that these simple layers made in this shot. Next up, let's talk about specular highlights. These are direct reflections of your light source on the food itself. So whether you're shooting in natural or artificial light, a specular highlight will be a direct reflection of your window or softbox in the surface of your food. This is particularly good when you've got glossy or juicy food where you really want to accentuate that texture. The strong highlights you can see in this chocolate ganache are simply reflections of my softbox, which for this shoot was my 120 centimeter octagonal softbox with double diffusion and no grid. So just a quick note on grids when you're creating specular highlights. As you're seeing a direct reflection in your food, you'll be able to see the grid too, which can be a little bit strange. So I do tend to shoot without the grid for these kinds of shots. If it wasn't for these specular highlights, this image would be totally flat and the icing would lack all texture and detail. So these highlights are also a great way of adding life to any boring but reflective subject, brown foods included. Another reason people sometimes struggle to make brown foods look good can simply be due to approaching things from the wrong angle. Is there another way you can look at it that might be more interesting? Try turning the dish around, shooting it from above, or even from below or straight on. You can check out my video on camera angles that I made recently to help you decide on the best camera angle for your shot. If it's a cake, bread, or other baked item that can be cut open, think about what it looks like on the inside. This shot of this cake only came together when I cut into it, revealing all of that beautiful texture inside. I used a wide aperture f2.8 with my macro lens to shoot this, as I really wanted that layer of cut cake to be framed softly by the cake around it. Using color theory is about going deeper than looking at colors on their own. It's more about how colors are combined that makes them more interesting. Brown can look great with other browns, like we saw in the pumpkin pie shot, or with lighter shades within the same family, such as pale yellow, beige, and orange. But brown also looks beautiful when it's combined with just black, white, and shades of grey. But if you know your way around a colour wheel, you'll also know that complementary colours for brown are in the blue, green, purple region. And brown foods can look stunning when photographed in combination with blue, green, lilac, even turquoise. I love photographing brown foods on bold coloured backdrops, but if you don't have a lot of backgrounds hanging around, really making the most of your garnishes can be a great way to add a complementary colour to your brown dish. In this shot of this katsu curry, I made sure to include plenty of green garnish by cutting the spring onion in 2 different ways for interest and placing lots of fresh coriander on the dish and in a little serving bowl to the side. The green chilies also give an idea of the flavour in the dish while providing another complementary pop. If you need some inspiration for colour, try using an online colour palette tool such as Adobe Color Tool to see what other colours would work well with your brown dish. I've added the link in the description for you to check out. It's a really, really cool tool. And what happens if the dish you're shooting basically has no colour? Well, why not embrace the monochrome? Now the shot becomes all about the light, texture, and form. This way you get to ignore what doesn't work and concentrate solely on the dish's good points, like its texture. In this photo of crinkle cookies, the brown is barely even perceptible due to the darkness of the cocoa. So instead, I wanted to focus on the stark contrast of the black and white, picking up all the craters and the texture from the icing sugar. Shooting on a dark background allowed the food to stand out without distracting from the beautiful white sugar powder. So there you have 6 tips to help you get more out of your brown food photos. Don't forget to grab your free food styling tips PDF, and I will see you in the next video. And concentrate slowly.